everyone. This is Paul Hitchcock, and welcome to Wealth Protector TV. Some of you may be listening to this on Wealth Protector Radio. I'm here with my colleague, Mike Bader. Mike, can you hear me okay?
Great, Paul. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for being on. And Mike is with our Advanced Tax Consulting Group, and obviously a lot of people around the country, Mike, are focused on the new tax laws out of Washington. We're in the middle of that right now. And so this video today is about a couple of items you and I were talking offline about what we want to go into, and we're going to do a series of these, but these are two hot button ones right now. So I'm just going to jump right in. The first is mortgage deduction, and this is a big one that people are thinking about. What's going on with mortgage deduction, the new tax laws?
Well, the tax code has always promoted people to own their own home, the American dream. And the deductions have been tailored in the past so that there were limits as how much mortgage you could assume and be able to write off all the interest. Right. You could have your main home, and you could also do a second residence as well and deduct the interest from acquiring the property. Also, you could take home equity loans and use those monies for various purposes as well and write off the interest there.
Right.
The new tax laws, Paul, basically now limit the deductibility of mortgage interest to $750,000 of mortgage debt on new homes acquired after December 15th of 2017.
Uh-huh.
And
okay.
Also, if you have home equity loans or you take out new home equity loans, you're not going to be able to take a deduction for that with some exceptions.
So do you see this impacting a wide swath of people in the U.S.? And if so, who does it really impact, and how big of an impact is it?
Well, I think in the more wealthier or urban areas, new homeowners are going to find that they're not going to get all the tax benefits they might have been expecting to receive. So you would think that places like California, Connecticut, New York, a lot of the urban areas, new homeowners are going to be limited. And, you know, it's interesting, Paul, because the Republican platform has always been very marriage focused and family focused. And the way the rule is now structured, it actually rewards two single people owning a principal residence, where they could now write off $1.5 million between the two of them, whereas a married couple would only be limited to $750,000.
Interesting, very interesting. And so never thought about that. That is very, very interesting. So if you're talking to one of our clients about this, and people are like, oh man, this is really going to affect me, what do you do with them? I mean, do you go in then and start analyzing their tax picture under these new laws and see if there are other areas where they can benefit, or what do you do?
Well, again, I have to take a look at what their goals are and what they're trying to achieve from an investment or a equity growth type objective. Right. And then I would then try to tailor the tax advice around those goals and objectives, and also help try to prioritize them so that they have pretty much a roadmap of how they want to just make investment decisions in the future.
Right. Are there areas where they're getting hit on the mortgage deduction, but are there other areas where they would benefit that maybe could offset that?
Well, some people will borrow money against their equities and maybe real estate, their principal residence, to make investments. The stock market has done exceptionally well in the last 12 months. And the new tax laws have not touched the investment interest deduction, right, which generally allows you to write off interest that you've used to make an investment in real estate, rental property, investment portfolios. There are some limitations as to how much interest you can write off, but in regards to taking out, say, a home equity loan, as long as you can trace the money from the home equity loan to investments in real estate, investments in business, investments into portfolio, stocks, bonds, you would still be able to preserve that interest write-off deduction subject to various limitations.
Now that's interesting. So that is, so dive a little deeper on that. Explain what you just said. So if, go over that one more time. Well,
let me give you a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Let's say, for example, I have a home I'm living in, and the home is worth $800,000, and I presently owe $200,000 on my existing mortgage. And I decide that I'm going to borrow $250,000 out of my home, take out a second trust deed or mortgage, and I'm going to use $125,000 of that money to buy a piece of rental real estate. And I'm going to take the other $125,000 and I'm going to invest into a new business. I have an idea and I'm going to develop a business with that investment.
Right.
So now I can take that interest from the home equity loan and I can now deduct the interest, half the interest against the rental real estate income that I'm making. And I can also then take and deduct the other half of the interest against the business that I've opened up and began to start operating as well.
Interesting, very interesting. Well, I have a feeling just hearing you answer that we could probably spend the next 2 hours just talking about that and diving into all the nuances. We don't have time.
I'm going to clear my calendar, Paul.
Yeah. Well, listen, these are great. I mean, we talked a bit about the mortgage deduction, the investment interest deduction. And so my takeaway from this is just an accurate statement that for anybody really that owns a home or rental income property, and I know we work with a lot of those people across the country, the idea, what you're saying is probably should take a fresh look at what you're doing and get some advanced tax input. This is not just preparing a tax return. This is really being proactive about how this new plan affects you. Would you say that's a good takeaway?
I agree. Ultimately, Paul, I have a lot of people who come to me after the fact and say, here's what I did. And I will usually come back to them and say, it's too bad you didn't talk to me before you did that, right, because I could have helped you restructure it in such a way that you would have been able to take advantage both financially and from a tax perspective.
Great. Awesome stuff. Thanks everybody for listening or watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Mike.
Look forward to it. Thanks again, Paul.